Good evening and welcome to another instalment of Qwizical's Guides to with me, Qwizical. And today we are looking at fishing. Hence the wonderful picture of a boy fishing. So what is fishing? Fishing in Scrabble is when you play off usually only one or two tiles in order to draw a bonus. And fishing is a really deliberate looking act, usually, in order to get this bonus. Sometimes your opponents may not notice it's actual fishing because you may end up dumping the cube. But mostly, fishing is obvious and your opponents know you're doing it. But let's get on with the two examples I have planned. So here's the first example in an annotated game that I went through recently on the channel. And David Webb himself said he would probably fish in this move. And one of the reasons that I think he would fish is because there is really no real viable alternative on this board. His rack contains 5 of the tiles that you would normally want to keep. So the letters include the letters of retains, O, L and D. Those are typically the letters you want to keep. All single letters, so no duplicates on your rack. And you want to make sure they all go well together, which they do. All of those tiles go really, really well together. So you'd definitely be fishing off the H and the E here. And one of the things you have to consider when fishing off tiles is what you do with those tiles. And ideally you don't want to be exchanging them because you could probably score a decent amount on the board. And exchanging is kind of obvious, especially when you're only exchanging 2. So where would you put the H and the E on this board? Now what we've got to remember to do is to not block off already existing openings, because if we're fishing off for a bonus and the board's closed, we're not going to be able to play that bonus. So we need to make sure all of these floaters, despite them not being potentially very good, so that includes P, O, T, T, Y, this T over here and this E, and also this hook down here, these lanes, and this S hook. So why do we have to try and conserve it? And we have to conserve it because they're great lanes for bonusing. The more floaters that are available, the more chance you're going to have of being able to play something through one of them. So when I did this game with David, he said he would probably end up playing he here. That was kind of weird. But he would play he here because he creates an additional lane above it along column 2. Now, of course, the only letter he's holding that goes in front of it is a T, but at the same time, the player here also distracts his opponent by playing along column 2 from the triple letter square, and that distracts his opponent from using any of the floaters and taking away his bonus spots. And of course, by playing only 2 tiles, he's then controlling what he's picking up, so he's already got most of his next rack on his rack. He's just relying on maybe a consonant vowel pickup or a 2 consonant pickup, and then his bonus is pretty much there. There isn't really many other typical fishy moves here. I mean, something like the may work, but it scores a lot less, and what you have to consider as well when you're fishing is you're still trying to win the game. Fishing off for 2 points, unless you really have to make an opening and the scores are close, it doesn't really benefit you, because if your opponent's going to score 25 or 30 points next turn, like a typical top division player does, then you're really going to struggle to keep up, and you're going to find you're a bonus behind already, and you're even further behind, so you need 2 bonuses to come back, and then you're just in a vicious cycle of you're constantly behind trying to get bonuses. The tile pool is completely destroyed, and you just really can't do anything with it. So ideally when you do fish, you need to score as well, but if you can't do it, that is completely fine. So let's move on to my next example, which is a game I recently looked at for other reasons, which you may have seen in this series already, but we're going to talk more about the potential for bonusing here and what is it. Of course, the opening is clearly along row B, and you are holding the case D as your only hook for iota. There's no hooks for iota on the front, of course. But the thing is here, what do you fish? Now, here is a situation where you would probably only fish off one tile unless you could create an opening. Now, the difference between fishing off 2 tiles and fishing off 1 tile is that when you fish off 1 tile, you can predict accurately how much of the bag you will draw into a playable bonus to, or even a potential bonus. But the problem is with playing 1 tile is that you can't often make the opening that you need. So you always have to weigh up whether you need to create additional openings or whether you should try and keep the board as it is, but definitely don't try and block it any more than it is. So, for example, here you would want to get rid of either the W or the P. Now, I know I said before about getting rid of duplicates, but here there are no more E's to draw, so you don't have to risk imbalancing your rack to the point where you need to fish off more tiles again. And it's always important to consider what's left in tile tracking. I will probably make another video about the importance of tile tracking and why it's really, really necessary that everyone does it. So we're not going to go into that here. But I am going to talk about right now what happens if you dump either the P or the W. So what happens if you play off the W? The W is at this point the most obvious tile to drop off. So what happens when you play it at M9? Well, the set of letters in the bag that gives you a bonus across row B is the C, the L, the M, and the V. And there are only 7 of those in the bag. So you're drawing about a third of the time into a playable bonus. Whereas the alternative, which is to play the P, for example at N2, because you're definitely not going to play it at C10, you're going to want to score some points as well, so N2 is the place to put that P. And you're drawing into I, L, O, T, V, and X by playing off the P, and that's 12 tiles. So you're drawing into just over half of the bag into a bonus. So the difference is about 17% or more between drawing a bonus and not drawing a bonus. And it's completely up to you if you want to sacrifice the points playing off the P and playing off the W for those extra percent points, but notice how accurately we were able to predict what tiles would give us the bonus by only playing off 1 tile. And this is the kind of situation that you would typically have further to the end of the game when there are, say, 8 tiles left, and you could say, right, which of these 8 tiles gives me the bonus? And sometimes you may have 3 or 4 of them, sometimes you may only have 1, but sometimes if you need to win, at least you know you've got a shout at 1. So, to summarise, with fishing, you need to play 1 or 2 tiles. Playing any more than 1 or 2 tiles completely increases the variability of your pickup onto your rack. And unless you know a load of bonuses, the chances of you still having a bonus may be slightly decreased. Of course, there are players that can play 4 or 5 tiles and still draw into bonuses, but when you are deliberately aiming for a bonus, playing 1 or 2 tiles allows you to have more control over your rack and increases the likelihood of you bonusing. Second point, do not block existing openings, and this is really important. And probably one of the key points of this If you block the existing openings, then your bonus isn't going down. And if you're sat there with an unplayable bonus, like a lot of players, all they can see is that bonus and they can't see other good plays. So you're going to be completely stuck on seeing that play, and you don't want to be. So make sure there is an opening for your bonus if you are trying to get one. And to do this, you may need to do point number 3, which is create additional openings. And those additional openings, ideally you need at least 2 spots for your bonus. That way, if your opponent blocks one, you've got another. It's the same kind of idea for outplays, which will be discussed at some other point. But having 2 places to play your bonus means you're definitely going to get it down. That's the short of it, because there is no long of it. And finally, point number 4, what is your probability of drawing a bonus? This is more applicable when fishing off only 1 tile than it is doing 2, and is usually more occurring towards the end of a game where drawing a bonus actually matters greatly. So I hope you enjoyed my video on fishing. I hope you learnt something. I hope your memory has been reinforced, and I hope you'll go into games fishing in a whole nother different way now. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you next time.